Hello princesses! Today I'm going to be talking about the Etude House Play Colour Eyes in Lavender Land. I got this product off Beauty Hara, which I talked to you guys about in my haul video, and they gave me the products in return for that haul video, but I wanted to mention them again when I was doing these ones as well because they are a newer shop and it is nice to support newer shops. I also had a pretty good experience with them, so I did end up recommending them in that video if you haven't already seen it. So I actually decided to pick this up because you guys requested it, and if I can find who actually requested it I will put it down here as normal, but sometimes like the YouTube search function is pretty bad for comments, so sometimes I can't actually find who did it, but someone requested this, so I decided to pick it up. In all honesty, when I looked at the colours I was kind of like, I don't see myself using that this much, so this one is for you guys, not necessarily for me. However, obviously the packaging is really cute, and I already did have the Play Colour Eyes in Cherry Blossom, and I really liked that one, so I was definitely willing to try it out. Just wouldn't be my first pick in terms of colours. So for this one, the product description says, the 10 colour eyeshadow palette in purple reminiscent of lavender flower. The soft textured pigments glide on to deliver a vivid colour payoff that lasts all day without cracking. So of course the packaging is really pretty to me. I really enjoy the lavender colour, and on the inside there is a gigantic mirror which I really appreciate, and space for some makeup brushes. They do provide some of these brushes which I used to use but no longer do because I have nicer brushes, but if I was wanting to use these they do actually work really well to pick up like the glitters and things like that, rather than some of the other brushes that I own. They're just not very good for blending, so if you don't have any brushes I always recommend picking up one blending brush, otherwise you can kind of make do with these ones. It also had this little clear plastic thing over the top which is protecting the shadows, which is really nice, but it also had really cute little pictures on it and some Korean writing, which I'm assuming is the actual names of the shadows. I got the names of the shadows from someone's blog, and I'll put their name down here because they were pretty much the only place that I could find all of the names. I could find some of the names on some of the websites, but not all of them, and it was very annoying to me, but this lovely person who wrote them down, thank you very much for that. There are 10 colours in the palette and it is very heavy on warm browns and kind of goldy glitters. There are two proper lavender shades, a pale and a dark lavender, and then there's one that is kind of like a plum colour, which is kind of annoying considering it is a Lavender Land palette. But I guess what they've gone for is more of the land side rather than the lavender side. So I guess a lot of these could be like earthy colours. I was just, yeah, when I looked at them online, when I saw the swatches, I was kind of like, I can't see myself using these on a day-to-day basis. And now that I have it, I still can't see myself using these on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to swatch them for you. I'm going to show you how I got this eye look here, and then a couple of other eye looks that I did end up creating with the palette. The first shade is called Purple Fantasy. This one has green, blue, and I think pink glitter and a kind of like brown base colour, which is quite nice. It gives a really nice sparkle, but I find this one a little bit hard to use with others just because of the amount of glitter in this one and the different colours of the glitter. Because a lot of the other colours in the palette are shimmery, I just find that it's a little bit too much and a little bit like, ugh, yeah, I don't know. The next shade is called Night Garden Stroll, which is a matte dark brown. This one you can see a little bit of shimmer because of the shade that I swatched beforehand, but it is actually matte and it is a very nice formula and easy to use with the other shades. My blending is still quite poor for this though. Sunset in Provence is a brick shade with a satin finish. I think that this one is really pretty, although I don't get a huge amount of wear out of it on its own. It is quite nice to add as like a sort of outer third darkening kind of colour. Dried Flower is a light brown shade with warm undertones. This is the one that I use as a transition for almost all of my looks. Purple Scent is a shimmery glittery brown, which is another warm toned shade. It goes really nicely with the shade before it, which was called Dried Flower. Lavender Ice Cream is a very, very pale light lavender shade, which honestly I think is closer to like a white than it is lavender because I can barely see it. It has a little bit of glitter. I think it might be a gold glitter from what I can see, but this one takes about 1,000,000 layers to apply, and it is the lightest shade and the weakest pigmentation in the range. Lavender Festival is a satin purple shade. This one looks super pigmented and super dark, but honestly I find it really hard to deal with and I have to use multiple layers to get even this light colour. It is a very pretty colour, but for me it's a lot of hard work, which is a shame because both of the lavender colours in the palette are the hardest to work with. Purple Flower is a satin plum colour with, I think, is gold glitter. I think that this shade is stunning. I get very little use out of it, but I really like it. Champagne Gold Glitter. This one doesn't really seem to have any underlying pigment. It is just sort of like a glitter topper, which I think is really pretty. The last shade is called Goodnight Lavender, which is a gorgeous shimmery bronze colour. You can see some of that gold glitter underneath at the moment because of the previous shadow, I'm sorry. This one has a beautiful buttery formula. It's so easy to work with. It is like one of the best shadows I think in the palette. So I'm going to quickly show you how I did this look with the palette, which I honestly don't love. But that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to pick up the transition brown colour with a blending brush. Mine is from Zoeva. And I'm going to put that into my crease. And then I'm also going to put that on the outer half of my lower lid. This doesn't look that great with the other two shades that I'm using because this one is quite a warm toned like red brown, whereas the others are kind of a bit more cool toned. So I kind of feel like I've got this red or like warm ring going on and it just looks weird. But I'm hoping that it's going to look nicer when I put eyeliner and mascara on, which I really should have done. Alright, so now that I've done that, I'm going to take the shimmery gold right at the end here with a flat filthy shader brush because I've done all of the swatches for this today and it has been a long day. I'm putting that in the inner half of my eyelid because this doesn't have any actual underlying pigment. It's kind of hard to work with by itself. I'm also putting this very gently underneath my eye, also going out of frame, getting glitter in my eyes. And then finally I'm going to use the very last brown on the end here and I'm going to put that in the outer third. This one is such a beautiful bronzy colour and it's like the nicest, butteriest formula. So this one is very easy to work with. All I'm really doing is finding the outer third of my eye and then kind of brushing it inwards like that so it merges with that shimmery gold and the warm brown, which again, the warm brown makes it look kind of weird, but that was literally it. 3 colours and it took me like a minute. I'll have to watch the footage back and see. So today I'm wearing the lightest matte brown in the crease. Then on the right side of that brown I'm wearing that shimmery brown all over the lid, which is really pretty. And then on the other side of the brown, the left side, I just put a little bit of that red brick brown in the outer corner. You can kind of see the red brick brown, but it kind of just looks a lot like the other brown colour, so I don't know if that was super successful. So this is the medium purple kind of colour in the crease with the light lavender on the rest of the lid. Can pretty much barely see the lavender. And this is what it looks like at the end of the day. The purple turns like into this really interesting kind of like brown pink colour. I don't know, it's really bizarre. So overall for this palette, I do actually enjoy using the shadows. It's just that I find the colours a little bit hard for me to use on a day-to-day basis. They're not the colours that I personally gravitate towards. The opposite is true for when I talked about the cherry palette. With these ones, cannot open it, why? These ones, because it's full of pinks and peaches and things like that and nice browns, I find it much easier to use something like that, aside from that really bright pink, than I do to use something that is more sort of the shades that are in this palette, for example. And that's not to say that the palette's colours are impractical, it's just that for me, they're not the most practical shades. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It's not a bad palette and the shades are not bad. It's just that for me personally, I find them harder to use. I did have some questions on the cherry palette review where people said that they've had previous palettes from Etude House, Color Play Eyes, whatever this is called, yep, Play Color Eyes, where the shadows have been really hard, especially the glitter shadows, and they haven't been able to pick up pigmentation from them. I didn't experience that in the Cherry Blossom palette or the Lavender Land palette. I haven't tried any of the other Etude House Play Color Eyes actual palettes, so I cannot say that for sure. I think the worst culprit was was apparently the Wine Party palette, which means that I probably will not be picking up the Wine Party palette, even though it sounds really fun. But yeah, I didn't experience any type of hardness or anything to do with that in terms of any of the shadows in this. I did experience a lack of pigmentation or chalkiness in a lot of the shades. So there are some shades that are particularly bad, and those are... Why did I keep the little things in here? That's so annoying. The very first shade, that one, I needed to use like 6 layers of it to get it to show up. The next bad ones were the 2 purples in the middle, the 2 lavenders. The lightest lavender looks like nothing. I may as well be wearing nothing on my eyelids. Why make something that is so pale and so unpigmented? I don't understand. The second one is that next lavender sun beside it. It just doesn't look the same as what I expected. I expected it to be quite pigmented, quite like a bright or at least a dark lavender color, but it was just a bit like meh. And to get the pigmentation that I showed you in this video, I needed about, I think, 6 layers of the product to build it up. So not super great. I think the others are all pretty good though. So all in all, I think that the Etude House Lavender Land palette has beautiful packaging. It has really pretty coloured eyeshadows on the inside that for the most part work really well. They're easy to blend and they're easy to apply, albeit some of them are very weak in pigmentation and require a few layers. However, it's not going to be something that I keep in my collection because I don't find that the colours for me are day-to-day wearable or easy to use. I would rather keep, because I can only have a small amount of products in my house, I would rather keep the Cherry palette instead, for instance, or my Naked palettes, or one of my MAC quads, because those have got colours that I use on a day-to-day basis. This one, I really have to force myself to try and use it, and that's not what you want to see when you're trying to use a product. And the sun just went, and I'm super blue. I'm sorry about that. But if you are a fan of lavender products and you're looking for something that has gorgeous packaging, because this is really, really pretty, has the pretty colours on the inside and all of that jazz, and you like what you see in terms of the colours that are swatched and anything that you see inside the palette, I would recommend it because I think that the quality is good. It's not great because some of those shadows are not as pigmented as they should be, but it's still pretty good. So thank you guys so much for watching this review, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!